Hello, and thank you for your submission. In the essay, you can see some areas are highlighted in red, and they are grammatical mistakes. Some areas I've highlighted in green, those are vocabulary mistakes, and we're going to correct these mistakes together. Some areas I have rewritten a part of or the whole sentence, and that is just to give you an idea of an alternative way of writing that is a little bit more formal and will obviously get you a higher score. Let's begin. Bad results are better. Possibly, do you agree or disagree with this statement? Some people think that good grades can motivate students to work hard, while bad grades can only make students feel miserable and depressed. That's absolutely fine, that sentence. A different way of writing the same thing is, it is believed, starting with the passive, that achieving good grades can encourage hard work, while lower grades might result in students' misery and depression. So that's just a different way of writing, slightly more formal. Some people disagree with this, which was because some students got back when they got the good grades. Okay, so what you've just talked about, you're saying that some people disagree with this, fine, which was because, now this is going to confuse, sorry, this is going to confuse the examiner, which was because some students got back when they got the good grades. To get back usually means when you return, you get back from holiday or you get back from school. So we need to change this phrasal verb. And instead of using which, was, because, three words, we can substitute it with since. And since is timeless. That means you can use since for a present tense sentence, you can use since for a past tense sentence, or even for a future tense sentence. Since can have the meaning of all three of these words, so it's a very nice substitute if you choose to use it. Since some students regressed, meaning the opposite of progress. They regressed and they did worse when they got good grades. We do not need article here because if you say the good grades, that means you have a specific number of grades or a specific grades in mind, like for example 18, 19 and 20 are the good grades. So the good grades is very specific. In general, we're talking about good grades in general, which means we do not need the article. In my opinion, I feel that students will pride of excellent grades and bad grades are not always terrible news. I'm going to stop there. So now you're going to talk about your opinion, okay? I feel that students, you've got will here and then you've got are. Just please pay attention to the tense of your verb in the same sentence. I feel the students will is okay. Will, with will we need the verb. Pride is the adjective. So we need the verb will be proud or will show pride. That is how you can use pride. I feel that students will be proud or will show pride of excellent grades and bad grades. Instead of are not always, you can say might not always be terrible news. Since students can learn some lessons with it and do better than before. Okay, we learn a lesson by or from something. We learn a lesson from, and then instead of saying it, learn a lesson from what? I think what you're talking about is a kind of situation or manner. So we're going to say learn lessons from this, that means their view, and do better than before. I will explore these two reasons in the following essay. To begin with, people are easily to be conceited. Now you already have a verb here, are easily, so now all we need is the adjective. We do not need the verb to be. Are easily conceited when they get great results, especially students who are too young to control their arrogant emotions. If people have excellent grades after long time, hard work, they may feel that they are strong and no need to study hard anymore. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the sentence. If people have excellent grades after long time. Now, long is an adjective, time is a noun. When we have adjective and noun together, if your noun is single and it is countable, you need to include an article after a long time. And instead of, just as an alternative, instead of saying a long time, you could also say a considerable period. This is more formal if you wish to use this. So after a considerable period of hard work, therefore we need a preposition. They may feel that they are strong and no longer need to study hard. Instead of using any more, no longer need to study hard. There we go. Again, that's another way of making the sentence a little bit more formal. My own young brother was a compelling example to explain it. Okay, you say my young brother was. Now when you say was, this means that your young brother, I apologize, I'm just telling you the grammar, this means that your young brother is not alive anymore. Now I don't know if this is true or not, but when you say was, the examiner will assume that you do not have a young brother anymore, just to make you aware of the repercussion of using that tense. If you still have a young brother, then you would use is. So that's just to inform you. My young brother was a compelling example to explain this. So we don't need it to explain this. And again, because you're talking previously about a method or how to look at something in real life, then you would say this. We don't say it. It usually refers to an item or a specific episode that you've just talked about. So this is correct, to explain this. My young brother get, I think you mean past tense, so got. My young brother got the second ranking in this semester's final exam. Before that, again, we've got my young brother number 1, my young brother number 2, and here we've got my young brother mentioned for the third time. So the examiner might think that you are not able to use pronouns. So here we will use the pronoun instead. Before that, he worked hard and was always worried. If your sentence is finishing, worried is fine. If your sentence carries on, was always worried about, was worried about to be exceeded by other students. Okay, was always worried about. When you have worried about, you need the gerund. Was always worried about being. Exceeded is fine, but I think you used exceeded somewhere else in your writing, so you can always use a synonym, which is outshined, instead of using the same word again. Was always worried about being outshined by other students. However, after knowing the exciting news, we don't know the news. We get news, we learn the news, and once you get or learn the news, then you know the news. So the first step would be to get, or more formal would be learned. Therefore, however, after he, using the pronoun again, after he got or after he learnt the exciting news, he tended to, we need a verb, be lazy, because you're talking about an adjective. We need the to be verb. He tended to be lazy and spent, again, we have the adjective and noun like we had before. Single noun that is countable, we need the article. He tended to be lazy and spent a long time playing games. So I'm going to read this sentence one more time. However, after he got or after he learnt the exciting news, he tended to be lazy and spent a long time playing games. No concern to be surpassed anymore. Yes, that is where we used surpassed before. So, it is evident that achieving great grades are not always the good things, and students can become conceit. Okay, achieving good grades. When you achieve something, it is still counted as single, although grades is plural, but grades is connected with achieving, and when you achieve something, it's used in the singular form. So achieving a good grade or achieving great grades is always used with the single form of verb. Is not always the good thing. Which good thing? When we say the good thing, that means our listener knows which good thing we're talking about. If the listener is not sure what good thing you're talking about, we would say a good thing is not always a good thing. And because a is single, then your noun also has to be single, a good thing. And students can become, we need an adjective here after become, conceited. Instead of saying conceited, because I know you've used it before in your writing, you could also use egotistical, which is the same meaning. What's more, students can be encouraged by acute grades and reflect. We do not need the ed. Reflect on. This is the phrasal verb that you're using. Reflect on why they made the failure. The failure, why they made, just failure, we don't need the. Now we don't make failure, we fail, or we prove to be a failure. Another way of writing this, why their work resulted in failure. There is a well-known saying in Chinese, with many failures, people will be resilient and strong. So because you've used punctuation before the sentence, you need to use punctuation to finish the sentence again. For example, studies show that it is a common phenomenon that many students did a terrible job. In other words, you can say performed very poorly in the practicing tests. However, when they got the real exam, they would get a fantastic job. That means they would go out and find work. And that's not what you're trying to say. They would illustrate outstanding performance. They would show some very good results in their exam. I think that's what you're trying to say. Which was greatly, we need in, if you're talking about contrast, which was greatly in contrast to tests before. Instead of saying before, we can say prior, again making it more formal, to prior tests. And these students explained that they would analyze their failure and learn from it. As a result, again, they show great improvement in the real exam. Instead of saying getting a great job, which means they go out and find work, they show great improvement. The manner of looking at the situation is easy, we need an adjective, and common. And finally, your final sentence, however, good grades may discourage students to make progress and just to be conceited. We need the adjective, or you can also use the word passive because you've used conceited before. A very good, very well-rounded essay that you have written here. Well done. And so based on this, I would score it 25 out of 30. Thank you for your submission.